Welcome to Self-Love Actually, a podcast that will provide guidance and support along your self-love journey. I'm your host, Hailey Curtis, a self-love life coach who helps people better love themselves by creating a life they dream of living. My purpose in creating this podcast is that it allows you to love yourself a little more, each and every episode. I am so excited to introduce to you our first guest on the Self-Love Actually podcast, Nicole Curtis. Nicole is my younger sister by 11 months, and we've always fantasized of having a podcast together. So it was a no-brainer for her to be my first guest. A little bit about Nicole. She is all things movement. She is a professional dancer, certified Pilates instructor, and certified yoga instructor. Nicole is very passionate about teaching others how to move their body in a way that brings joy, prevents injury, and strengthens longevity of body movement. Nicole's line of work is very healing. Moving your body is essential to loving yourself, which is why Nicole is here with us today. Nicole, welcome.
Oh my gosh, hi. So excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here too. Let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with movement?
I am currently working as a full-time Pilates instructor, and I also manage a Pilates studio. So movement is a part of my everyday. It's been a part of my everyday for a very long time. I also dance professionally. I have some yoga training. There's this infamous story in our family. I know you know it, and I'll kind of tell you all about it. Hailey started dancing whenever she was 3, and I was 2 years old. You know, we're 11 months apart, and so I was so jealous of her. When it came time for her first dance review, the only way I would go without kicking and screaming was if I got to wear the ballet shoes my mom, I'm sure, was forced to buy me. And then the next morning, I come into the living room, 2-year-old baby Nicole, wearing my sister's costume and doing her entire dance. And I'd just like to say, ever since that point, I haven't stopped. And I guess in a way, it was a calling. So I danced pretty much every day into high school. I completely stopped when I went off to college. I fell into a deep depression. I kind of lost my purpose because I'd been, dancing and moving my body every day for all the days leading up to college. And then I had to end up switching schools, switching majors. And luckily, my new school, I got to major in performing arts and concentrate in dance. And I was back to dancing every day. And I started to feel like myself again. And so since then, I really made it a point to make sure movement was a part of my everyday life, and that no matter the struggle, that would be a major part of my career. And here I am.
Wow. It's so different to hear you say it like that in a nutshell because I know you very well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's really cool to hear you say it like that.
Thank you.
One thing that I definitely want you to touch on is the difference between working out and moving your body.
It's a very small difference, but it leaves a very major impact. Most often, the mindset when we are working out, in a gym, it most often begins with an end result in mind, whether that's weight loss or, toning the body, better energy, better sleep, stress relief. When we go in and we only solely work out with the end goal in mind, and goals are great, but I think the difference between the mindset between working out and the mindset of simply just moving your body in whatever way suits you, this can include going to the gym, is that you're doing it for the moment. Because when you go into a workout, always thinking about your end goals, you can get bogged down, At least in my experience, I get bogged down with the idea of how I want to look in a month or two down the line. And when I think ahead, I get overwhelmed and impatient. I begin to shame myself for not already being at that goal or, whatever your goal is. But if I go into a practice, whether that is going to the gym or going to a dance class, yoga class, or moving around in my living room, and I'm mindful in the moment and I listen to what my body needs, there's an instant gratification. And I think that your end goals, in a way, become a symptom of moving your body for enjoyment in the moment.
If you're moving your body, you are achieving the goal in the moment already. Like there is not necessarily an end goal. You're actively achieving the goal just by moving. It could be for a certain amount of time. You could set that goal for yourself, but it's not as hard of a goal to accomplish as losing 10 pounds because
Right?
that's going to be done over the course of months. Whereas moving your body for the moment is done instantly. So
Yes,
you're working with instant gratification when you're able to just move your body.
absolutely. And it doesn't have to be this grand workout, this intense hit workout. I mean, if that's a type of movement that brings you joy and works for your body, just always being mindful of why you're doing it and focusing on how good you feel afterwards and celebrating your body for being able to move in those ways.
Would you mind sharing like a few maybe untraditional ways of moving your body? Like, I'm sure everyone listening is familiar with like running, hits, typical exercise. But what are a few simple ways of just moving your body in the way that we're talking about movement in the moment?
Low impact exercises in the long term have more of a positive effect on our bodies than something that is very intense, like cardio, that's running or hit or weightlifting. Low impact exercises like Pilates or yoga, simply walking, helps to balance all sorts of chemicals and hormones in our bodies, which in turn help us to not feel so stressed out. It helps with digestion, just kind of helps with getting blood flowing in a low impact way that doesn't add stress to our body. High cardiovascular activity can be linked to the overproduction of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And when our body produces too much cortisol, we kind of hit a wall. We are unable to lose weight effectively. We're unable to digest food effectively. It's not too unconventional, but I guess stop doing too much. The idea that we have to keep doing more and more and more and just do it can end up being kind of toxic.
That's interesting you bring that up because just from culture, the way I was raised, like it's counterintuitive what you're saying. It's like almost needs to be a balance of all these things where what I learned was you have to do cardio every single day. You've
Right.
got to do these things. You've got to go hard. You got to sweat, get your heart rate up every single day. But what you're saying is that can kind of be like counterproductive in a way. I guess that's perfect transition for my next question. When can movement be toxic versus nourishing?
Always remember that movement is a necessity and everybody's body needs to move in order to feel good and stay healthy mentally and physically. Be aware of body shaming. You might end up depriving your body of sustenance or self punishment. You'll start accumulating stress and you might start comparing yourself, if you're just working for that end goal in mind and not being present in your movement. You're leading with the end goal in mind when you're experiencing any of those symptoms. And I experience this very often with dance. The thing that I love the most and is hard for me to live without can quickly become a threat to my mental health if I'm not careful. I can easily find myself comparing myself to other dancers' bodies or their ability and training. And, I find myself in a shame spiral, and my joy is completely depleted if I practice with the idea that I need to look a certain way for a show or be able to do A, B, and C to be a good dancer, or that I need to be accepted into a program to be considered a true professional. If I am practicing with an end goal in mind, the progress doesn't occur. So, again, it's so important to stay mindful in the moment and practicing whatever it is that brings you joy.
What I'm hearing from you is that you can have an end goal, but it's so important to be mindful of the present. Are you comparing yourself? Are you judging? Are you being self-critical? And that is where it can become really toxic versus being more nourishing and staying in the moment and really appreciating the fact that, wow, my body is capable of doing this thing,
Exactly.
and shifting to more compassion in the moment, as well as, like you said, mindfulness and maybe some awareness too.
Yeah. Be proud of yourself for moving. I mean, getting up and just walking out of the door is an accomplishment. Think about the things like you do while you work out. I mean, lifting 5-pound weights is incredible. Just being very grateful for what your body can do and realizing that the little steps that you take are very nourishing and they are enough.
The little steps you take are very nourishing and enough.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So, why is movement essential to self love?
Simply put, it's because it's what our bodies were designed to do. They're designed to move. We humans are bipedal beings, meaning we stand up and walk around on two legs. We evolved to walk and run for long distances. So when we deprive our bodies of movement, we may experience various health issues, whether that's physical or even mental. So when I learned more about the functionality of my body and the reason it works and operates in the ways that it does, I started taking it meaning my body, a lot less personally. I started moving more or thinking about moving my body for a new reason. And that was because it's what it's designed to do. When you gift your body movement of any kind, your body gets to fulfill its purpose. And in turn, you can be rewarded with benefits, stress relief, better sleep, vitality and energy, digestion, blood flow, clearer thoughts, and, even maybe some pain reduction. And you might even experience some relief from anxiety or even depression. But, just be aware that if you have anxiety or depression and it's a clinical diagnosis, that movement is just a piece of the puzzle. So take care of yourself in those regards. But we have to move our bodies because that's what it was designed to do. And that is, in my mind, like one of the purest forms of self love. So sometimes it helps to take your goals out of the picture, like whatever they are. I mean, when I take out an end goal in mind and just think about, no, hey, your body is meant to move, it's like, oh, well, then I should do that.
I know that I had a major shift in my journey when I went from weight loss to just taking care of my body physically and mentally.
Yeah.
I really focused on that, and that required me to just move my body 5 days a week. That was my goal. Move my body 5 days a week for at least 20 minutes a day. And with the goal in mind of taking care of my mental and physical health. So, like you said, movement is in the moment. Every time I was working out and moving my body, I was achieving my goal actively. Your goal depends on you, and it's going to be different for everyone. So don't compare your goal to someone else's, but it can be something very, very simple, like taking care of your body that you were given, that is born to literally move. What would be your advice for someone who may be stuck in a rut with moving their body?
Just start small. If you're up for it, try many different things until you find that movement modality that brings you the closest to joy. And, say you are on a roll and started a routine of moving daily, or you do this already, but you miss a day or you mess up in whatever way that applies to you. Don't feel like you failed or all of the progress that you've made leading up to that moment goes completely out the window. Just try laughing it off and try again tomorrow. It's no big deal. We can start over constantly. You didn't let anyone down, not even yourself. Just keep moving forward. It's probably because your body needed to rest, but if you're too caught up in thinking about how you must do something, you're not going to hear your body's request. Be okay with taking a break. Rest is a vital part of self love and just self care in general. If you're just go, go, go all the time and you don't incorporate rest or recovery into your routine, you're not going to reap any benefits. You're just going to wear yourself out. You're going to spike that cortisol. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to experience health issues. Take it one day at a time.
There's something so beautiful with starting small. And starting small is defined by you. If that is moving your body for 5 minutes every day, meaning walking around your building and back, great job, you did it.
Yeah.
It's about showing up for yourself. And if you need to make that so small and easy for you to do in the beginning, go ahead and do it. Like, it is up to you. You are creating the rules. And I think a big part of self-love with movement is showing up. You've got to show up to do it. But showing up doesn't need to be a 45-minute workout or an hour yoga class. It can be a 5-minute walk every single day for a week. Even when you feel like you don't want to go on that 5-minute walk, check in. Why is that? Is it because your body physically aches? Or is it a mental thing? You don't really want to do it. And if it's a body thing, honor that, listen, rest. But if it's a matter of you just don't want to do it, well, you're going to need to show up and do it anyway because you made a commitment to yourself. And when it's small, you can always scale from there. When you feel like 5-minute walk is nothing, double it 10 minutes or, add another little movement exercise to it. And then another thing you touched on was rest, just in general. Why is rest so important for self-love?
Rest is so important for self love because it gives you a moment to check in with yourself. You're giving your permission to take a step back from your day to day life. Whatever you want to do to rest is going to be completely up to you. I mean, rest might be going on a walk, rest might be cooking, it might be binging Netflix. As long as you are aware, it's the same thing with moving your body. You need to be aware that you are resting and you're taking that time for yourself. And it gives you the chance to check in and maybe start to feel and see a difference in your day to day life. It gives you the opportunity to reset, reevaluate, and make changes. We need rest to move forward.
A lot of self-love tasks are action. Like, it requires you to take action, to implement something, to advocate, to be aware. And rest is such an important component that it requires you to do nothing. Something that allows you to check in with your body and really be in tune with it. And then another great thing that you pointed out was being aware that you're resting, just like being aware of your movement, being mindful. I thought that was a really great point.
Think of it like an airplane. If you're just flying in the sky, never coming down to land and refuel, you're going to crash. Whether you're just working 40 hours a week and then you're also fitting in like 8 hours for a workout, just realize it's not sustainable. I know that's what is acceptable for our society, especially here in the US. But you will crash and you will burn if you try to live your life like this. And so you have to rest. You have to come home. You have to refuel.
If you don't take the action and rest yourself, your body's going to force you to do it, and it's going to come probably pretty ugly. Like, it's not going to be nice or comfortable. So just take the time and rest for yourself.
Yeah. Just do it.
Awesome. Yes. Those were my movement questions that I had for you. And I have 2 follow-up questions that I'll be asking all of my guests.
Yeah.
So, what is your first memory of an act of self-love?
Since I've just been made aware of this concept, probably like 5 years ago, I wish I could think of something from my past. But the first memory of an act of self love honestly happened for me about a month ago when I had a pretty big breakthrough. So I saw a rather unflattering picture of me that somebody decided to post on Facebook, of course. I saw this, and instead of getting really upset like I do sometimes, I actually got out of my bed, stripped down naked, looked at myself in the mirror, and recreated the exact same pose. And I saw myself differently. This picture was taken the day before, but the person I saw in the mirror, the body I saw in the mirror was completely different. And
Wow.
dare I say hot? Like,
Hell yeah.
I look good. I actually have a journal entry from that moment that I kind of wanted to share.
Oh, we would love that. That's so beautiful.
What I did was I looked at myself and then I immediately wrote it down because I was so proud of this breakthrough. So from August 11th, 2021, I recreated the pose. I saw my body change and move at least 100 times because that is what it does. It moves. I am done letting a snapshot of one undetermined moment define the infinite ability of my body. A single frozen moment in time does not determine whether you or someone is good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, hot or not. It is so wrong to assume that a millisecond preserved on your smartphone and on social media forces us to believe and think one thing to the next about our bodies. We move, we change, we protect, we feel, we soften, we harden, we tense, we relax, we laugh, we cry, we rest, we rage, we comfort and console, and we move on. The way that I look in pictures does not even begin to scratch the surface. I now realize, respect, and understand that my body is truly designed to move.
Wow. That is beautiful.
I had it in that moment. And years of judging myself and wishing things looked different, untagging myself in photos, it changed there. There's just so many elements. We all know this. We've all seen the tips and tricks, of how to take good pictures. It's angles and lighting and equipment, outfit, makeup. It's so much work that goes into quote unquote looking good. I had enough. And I was like, I'm done comparing. It was a very different outcome than what I had experienced in the past. And I'm going to be honest, I still do. It's always going to be an uphill battle with self love, but at least I kind of started to change the pattern a little bit.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. That's super vulnerable of you. And I really appreciate you sharing that on this space because that is what it's all about. And To me, it shows that you went through so much before you got to that point of self-awareness.
Mm.
Like the fact that you thought to get naked and stare in front of a mirror and then journal about it is just like so beautiful. And I know that you didn't just wake up and become like that one day. Like that's from all the hard work that you've been doing. Self-love is an uphill battle. It's not something that you can achieve and have, and therefore you can claim self-love.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of constantly loving ourselves. And I just love that you have that moment so you can always go back to that and back to that entry. And I received a lot from it. And I know that a lot of our listeners are going to get a lot from that too. So thank you so much for sharing. That was such a beautiful answer.
Thanks.
So my last question for you is, what is your current favorite self-love practice and why? And what do you receive from it?
It has very little to do with movement because that's what I do every day. And I'm very lucky to do that in a lot of ways. That's what keeps me sane. But some of my favorite self-love practices right now are actually cooking and cleaning my apartment, or just going on walks and juicing or watering my very dead plants. It's just little tasks that I've found are necessary to be a responsible adult, but being very aware of what's going on in each moment. Like if I'm cooking something, like smelling the food and being like mindful cooking and getting excited that I have something delicious to eat, and even for the next few days. And what I get out of that is a little bit of peace, and I give myself space in those moments to actually focus on those little tasks, which then in turn like help to benefit myself. Like if I have enough food that I prepare that's left over for the next few days, like I get to eat it and reap those benefits. I know those are necessary tasks. That doesn't seem like a self-love practice because they're necessary, but whenever you take a very simple thing, give it an intention, and you're present in that moment, that in turn is self-love.
It's not so much of the action, but the intention behind the action that creates self-love. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. This was an awesome episode. Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at Nicole Blair Curtis. I also have a visual art account that is nicole.curtis.art. It's in my bio on my Instagram.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link both of those handles in the show notes below. So make sure to check out Nicole's account and give her a follow. Nicole, thanks so much again. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us for the Self-Love Actually podcast.
Of course. It was an honor to be here.
Thank you so much for listening, self-lovers. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know by leaving a review and subscribing to this podcast. And if you really loved it, please share this episode with a friend. This episode wouldn't have been possible without our production partner, Pinto Media. Making this podcast has been so easy with their help. If you're thinking of starting a podcast on your own, check out their page on Instagram at produced_by_Pinto, Pinto. If you're ready to level up your self-love game outside of this podcast, you can book a free clarity call with me to see if we would be a good fit for one another. I help my clients achieve their goals fueled by self-love. You can head to my website, haileycurtis.com, or check out the show notes below. If you have any suggestions or feedback for me about future episodes, please email me at hello@haileycurtis.com or DM me on Instagram at @IamHaileyCurtis. I really want to make sure that these episodes best serve you. That is it for today, self-lovers. I will meet you again on our next episode.